So I have this string named input. I say so right here. How did I know .length was in there? The way I did that is I actually looked that up in the Java API. So let me do that. Java API. I just Google Java API. Where is string? S-T-R-I. There it is. So here's string. And down here under method summary, so char add is one thing we're going to use here in a minute. Length. Hey, look, it returns the length of a string. By the way you read this is if you see something in the parentheses, you need to provide that to the method in order for it to work. And this thing on the left side is what it's going to give you back. So if I ask a string for its length, it's going to give me back an integer, which is the length of this string. If I'm looking at something like char@, I have to give it an integer, which is where in the string I'm looking. So I'm looking at char@0 or char@7 or some char in a particular spot, and it's going to give me back a char. So char is a single character, a single letter, for example. All right, so that's how I found out length. That gives me back some number. So I'm going to use the for loop just because, hey, it's a new fancy thing. So let me try creating a counter that keeps track of how many letters there are. Start at 0. If the char@ count 2, let's check to see if this is an A. Then I'm going to add 1 to letters. And then when I'm all done with this for loop, I'll print it out. I'll print out letters. So if I run this, hi there. Okay, so there are no A's in this sentence. All right, let me try running it again. A single A. So it gave me back 1. Notice that capitals don't count. If I'm looking at chars, it considers capital A's and lowercase a's as different. So rather than having to put in 26 different questions, or even worse, 52 different questions if I'm looking at upper and lowercase, it'd be nice if I could just ask Java, hey, is this a letter or not? It turns out there's actually a way to do that. And this has to do with something called a wrapper class. So the primitive types are, that we've learned so far, int, char, boolean, and double. It turns out there's some more that are similar to type int, except they're larger or smaller. And there's a float, which is a smaller version of a double. But those are the basic ones. It turns out there's a wrapper object for these things. So there's one called capital I integer, capital C character, capital B boolean, and capital D double. These are classes that have a whole bunch of utility functions for these types of things. We've actually used one from integer before. So parse int, when I take a string and change it into an integer, that's contained in the wrapper called integer. If we're looking at a particular character and we're going to ask some information about it, that's probably going to be in capital C character. So I'm actually going to go look up capital C character in the Java API and see what all I can do with that. So let's see. Character. Char set. There it is, character. So capital C character is the wrapper class for lowercase c char. And in fact, here at the beginning it says, hey, the character class wraps a value of primitive type char. So what all can we do with this? Bunch of static stuff. Here are the methods. We can get the ASCII value. That's interesting. So code point values typically are the ASCII value, so it'll give you back the number it matches. You can check to see if it's a digit. That's kind of nice. Is it a letter? Ah, that looks good. Probably be using that in a moment. Is it a space? Is it white space? I can change it to lowercase. I can change it to title case, whatever that is. So there's a variety of different things you can use to figure out about a character. So all of these things that you see are static. You use the name of the class and check something about it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to alter this if statement and use isLetter. So notice that what I do is I say, if this is a letter, isLetter is a Boolean method, much like isFlower was in JRU, or isWater ahead, or something like that. And isLetter requires some sort of char inside it. So the way that Java works is it starts inside the innermost parentheses. So the innermost thing is count 2. That's the most inside any of these parentheses. The next thing out is char at, so it takes the string at that number. Then it takes this, which is a char now. It substitutes in whatever that individual letter was here and says, all right, is that a letter? Then it sees if that's true. And then we add these up. How many letters is this? 20. That looks actually pretty reasonable to me. You can also check for digits. You can check for white space. You can check for just individual spaces. So, hey, look, is space. That might be useful in the fourth one when we're counting up words, because I'm assuming that words are separated by spaces. All right. So hopefully that gives you an idea for the first one. It turns out that I'm going to need something similar to this for file reading, and then I'll go into how to count up individual letters after that.